Would you like to have better command of your energy and more of a sense of control over your life and how you spend that energy wealth? Me too. So let's work on it together. So welcome to Human Being. I am Dr. Susan, and this episode is about energy wealth. This is about energy, not productivity, not hustle, not time management, pure energy. Because time is neutral. Energy is not. You can have a perfectly optimized calendar and still feel depleted. You can have a full schedule and feel grounded and clear and creative. It's about what you do with that precious, limited energy of life. The difference is not how much you're doing. The difference is how energy moves through your system. Feel that energy in your system right now. This today is about shifting from energy scarcity to energy wealth. Energy wealth, the capacity to generate energy intentionally, protect it strategically, invest it wisely, renew it consistently. And here is the straight truth. Most people are not tired because they're weak. They're tired because they're leaking energy in predictable ways, and no one's taught them how to stop. Let's start by checking your balance. Most adults check their balances regularly. We check how much cash is in our wallet, if we still use cash. We check our bank account, our retirement savings, our credit score. We check our phone battery to find out how much energy we have and how long we can go. We plan our day sometimes around these balances. And we check because those numbers determine what's possible. But here's the oversight. Almost no one checks their energy balance. And energy is the account that determines how you lead, how you parent, how you think, how you respond, how you create, and how you show up. You can have money in the bank and still be bankrupt in energy. You can have a full calendar and no capacity. You can have opportunity and no fuel to meet it. I know that feeling. It's not fun. It's depleting. If you would never go weeks without checking your financial balance, why are you going weeks without changing your energy balance and checking on it? Energy wealth starts with awareness. So that's where I want to dig in. What if you were to ask yourself daily, what is my current energy balance? High, moderate, low, overdrawn? If you're overdrawn, you don't double down on spending, you stabilize the account. How often are you just on autopilot, not even really tuning in to what your energy balance looks and feels like until, boom, you feel that crash? Energy is our operating system. It's the operating system underneath every outcome. And when our energy is well regulated, our focus sharpens, our emotional tolerance increases, our creativity expands, our decision quality improves, our leadership presence stabilizes. When energy is dysregulated, everything feels urgent, everything feels personal, everything feels harder than it is. Energy is not a personality issue, it's a motivation issue. It's not a discipline issue, it's a biological, psychological, and relational system issue. So psychologists look at energy across 4 domains. Physical energy, which is sleep, hydration, movement, breath. There's emotional energy like boundaries, regulation, relationships. There's cognitive energy like focus, clarity, decision load. And lastly, there's purpose energy. Your meaning, your alignment, your contribution, your sense that your brand or your output matches your intent and your input. When one domain collapses out of these 4, the others will compensate. And that compensation works until it doesn't. And this is why burnout often feels sudden. It isn't. It always leaves clues and cues before it arrives. Burnout is cumulative energy debt finally coming due. So I'm going to ask you right now, and I'd love for you to share with me, how is your energy balance today? What does it feel like inside your mind, your heart, and your body to be awake and alive right now? I'm curious. And let's start looking at the difference between energy scarcity versus energy wealth. We'll name the difference. Energy scarcity sounds like this. I just have to push through. I'll rest when this slows down. Everything feels urgent. Everyone gets access to me. I don't have time to recover. Scarcity treats energy as something you spend until it's gone, living metaphorically paycheck to paycheck. Energy wealth sounds like this. I invest where there's return. I recover on purpose. I protect peak energy windows. Access is earned, not automatic. Rest is part of performance. I don't know if anybody watched the opening ceremonies last night, but you look at all these athletes from all around the world, and we focus so much on their performance and their high energy and what they put out and what they are able to achieve, accomplish, contribute to the world through the beauty of their athletic prowess. I guarantee you, they take the time to recover and recharge. They focus on it as directly and intentionally as they do putting out the energy, as recovering it and filling their cup. Energy wealth treats energy as something you produce, you allocate, you grow. You're a fund manager for your energy. And this is not about doing less, it's about doing what multiplies. Energy as currency. Let's think about that. Energy as currency. You have a metaphorical wallet right now. What's in it when it comes to your level of energy? Do you have a count? Have you checked it recently? Time is fixed, energy is fluid. You can expand energy, you can waste it, you can invest it, you can protect it, but you cannot ignore it indefinitely. Energy debt accumulates quietly. And then it shows up as irritability, brain fog, low patience, reduced creativity, decision fatigue, physical tension, and eventually it shows up as burnout, Accumulated energy mismanagement. I'm in charge of all that energy, and I decide how it gets doled out, whether I do so intentionally or not. So I want to talk about something that is in the news a lot in the past few years, and we all know, both intuitively and we hear how important it is, but do we honor it? I'll ask you this question right now. How is your sleep? If energy is currency, sleep is your primary income stream. Sleep is not a passive affair. It's an active biological restoration of self. If you read the book Why We Sleep, and I highly recommend reading it, it's a game changer. You will not sleep the same after reading this book. So research that's summarized in the book Why We Sleep says that adults need, guess how many hours of sleep per night? 7 to 9. That has not changed throughout the ages. And research further shows that after one night of 4 to 5 hours of sleep, cognitive performance drops significantly. It brings me back to college. I'm telling you, I could stay up all night studying or otherwise, and I could go to class the next day and be relatively functional. I don't know how that happened, but I definitely do not have access to that account any longer. In fact, chronic sleep deprivation impairs attention, memory, and emotional regulation. I know you know this. Sleep loss increases risk of anxiety, depression, cardiovascular disease, and weakened immune function. In another study, being awake for 19 hours straight produces cognitive impairment that is comparable to legal intoxication levels. Translation, sleep deprivation mimics being drunk without the self-awareness. And Walker also notes in that book on Why We Sleep, the shorter you sleep, the shorter your life. That's not dramatic, that's data. What does sleep actually do? First thing, it consolidates memory. It makes sense of your day. It restores metabolic function. It regulates emotional reactivity. It clears out neurological waste. And it supports immune health. You can't sacrifice sleep and remain fully operational. You sacrifice sleep and operate at a diminished capacity. So high performers often try to optimize everything except sleep. And this is like optimizing investments while ignoring income. Sleep is income. So here's a question for you. It's a weird one. Did you ever feel a little relieved when you got sick and you couldn't go to work or you couldn't go to school or you couldn't go to that function that you had signed up to go to? You felt a little relieved that you got sick because it meant you could get out of something, a meeting, an obligation, an event, a conversation, a deadline. You didn't want to be sick, but you also didn't have the energy to keep going. And this illness gave you concrete permission to stop. If you've ever had that reaction, you're not alone. That moment of relief is data. It's your nervous system telling you, I need a pause before this. I need recovery before this. I need space before this. And when we don't give ourselves permission to rest, the body sometimes takes that decision out of our hands. Think about college students when they come home for Thanksgiving break or spring break. Parents, you know this. How much more do they sleep? It's like they've never slept before, and they'll get whatever bug is going around. It's because they've been running and running on fumes and they come home and finally their body gets the message that it's okay to rest, it's okay to check out, it's okay not to show up. And their body says, my turn. And this isn't about blaming your body. It's about listening to it earlier. If the only way you can stop is by being forced to stop, red flag, your system is overdrawn. Energy wealth or energy abundance means we don't wait for collapse to create recovery. We don't need illness to legitimize rest. We don't need exhaustion to justify boundaries. You're allowed to recharge before you break. You're allowed to say no before your body says it for you. If getting sick feels like relief, that's not weakness, that's a signal. Your body is begging for energy repair. Another book to put on your list, The Body Keeps the Score. I'll leave it at that. You know your energy is low when you open a new browser tab and you forget why, or you reread the same email 3 times and you still don't process it, or you can walk into a room with purpose and leave with confusion. Your calendar alert goes off and your nervous system files a formal complaint. Burnout is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like staring at a screen and thinking, I used to be smart. The physiology of energy. Energy is biological before it's psychological. You don't think your way out of depletion. You regulate your way out. And one of the most effective tools is called the physiological sigh. Have you heard of this? Let's try it. It's a 3-second activity and it's a game changer. It will change your biology, your physiology instantly. The physiological sigh. What we're going to do, and I'm going to talk about it before we do it, we're going to inhale a deep breath through your nose. And at the top of that breath, while you're still inhaling, take a second short inhale. And then take a long, slow exhale through the mouth. So inhale through the nose. Take a second short inhale. And then a long, slow exhale through the mouth. And what you are doing when you repeat that 2 or 3 times, you are creating a breathing pattern that rapidly reduces stress by offloading carbon dioxide and calming your nervous system. This is supported by neuroscience research showing its effectiveness in lowering acute stress markers and restoring autonomic balance. The physiological sigh. Use it before difficult conversations, after conflict, before presenting, when you're cognitively overloaded. Build this habit. Regulation first, strategy second. Start with your body and your mind will fall in line. The physiological sigh. Now, there will be moments when you simply don't have the energy. You're distracted, you're activated, you're not resourced enough for the conversation in front of you. It is okay to say that. I have a colleague that I was scheduled to meet with this week, and it was at a low point of energy for me in that week, but I really liked this person and I was looking forward to meeting. We had some things that mattered that we needed to talk about. And he called me about 10 minutes before we were scheduled to meet. And he said, Susan, I don't have it right now, and I want to be fully present when we connect. How disruptive would it be if we postponed our connection? I had an automatic physiological sigh in that moment because I too was exhausted, yet I had not afforded myself the luxury of the truth. I was so relieved when I got that phone call and I said, "My gosh, are you a mind reader? I need the time. Let's connect." 2 days later. This was not dramatic. This wasn't defensive. It was clean. I want to be present for this and for you, and I'm not right now. I'm a bit activated. Can we come back to this? I don't have the energy to do this well today. I need a minute to reset so I can show up better. I imagine that you might think at some point, I can't ever say something like that because I don't want to appear anything less than superhuman. Guess what my respect for that colleague did when he called me and said, I don't have it today? My respect went up for him. And also my sense of psychological safety with him went up because I now know that when he's able to be present with me, he's truly able to be there. When he's not, he's going to tell me. That's a form of authenticity that we don't see enough of. So I triple dog dare you. The next time you have an experience that's been planned and you don't have that full energy, and it's not going to cause someone to die or something catastrophic to happen, trust the other person or people that you're scheduled to be with enough to choose one of these reset claims and allow yourself that luxury. Most people think naming their energy makes them look weak. It does the opposite. It shows awareness, it shows regulation, and it shows ownership and agency. Unclaimed energy leaks into tone, posture, and reactivity anyway. They're gonna know. If you don't name it, it still shows up. You can't fake it till you make it every time. You might be able to get away with it a little bit. Remember that cumulative scorekeeping that your body is doing. Claiming your energy is leadership. You are not responsible for being endlessly available. You are responsible for being honest about your capacity. At the very least, honest with yourself. There's a big difference between avoidance and awareness. Avoidance disappears. Awareness communicates. When you name your state, you protect the interaction. You prevent unnecessary damage. You model regulation. That's not withdrawal, it's stewardship. Claim your energy before it claims you. Are you willing to try that? Who in your world is safe enough for you to bring that honest statement to the middle? There's more research on energy and stress and performance. So we're going to ground this in evidence. First, stress and cognitive load. Research in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. I got to do their website. I got to redesign their website years ago. Anyway, research for the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences shows that chronic stress reduces working memory capacity and cognitive flexibility. So translation there, when your energy is dysregulated, your intelligence is harder to access. You end up doing stupid stuff. Second study on decision fatigue. Roy Baumeister and his colleagues demonstrated that repeat decision-making depletes self-regulation and judgment quality. Too many decisions equals lower threshold of freaking out. That's an official term. Translation: unnecessary decisions drain energy faster than hard and meaningful work. Then the third study on recovery and performance. This is an interesting one for my occupational health friends. Studies in occupational health psychology show that psychological detachment from work during recovery time predicts better performance, better mood, and stronger resilience. Detachment. Translation: rest is not optional. It's an actual performance output. So let's think about your world and how you give yourself permission to detach, to recover, to rest. And by doing that, or in order to help you do that, I want to bring up Oprah Winfrey. She is often cited for her immeasurable success. But what is less discussed about Oprah is how fiercely she protects her energy. She has spoken openly about limiting meetings, protecting her mornings, ending relationships that drain. I said it. Building silence and solitude into her life. One of her most quoted insights is, you teach people how to treat you by what you allow. I remember watching her show live when that sentence first came from her, and it actually came from a visit from Dr. Phil, who may love to make fun of, but this was some wisdom he dropped in that moment. We teach people how to treat us. And she added on to that, by what we allow. That is an energy statement. Oprah did not scale her empire and her impact by giving unlimited access. She scaled by preserving her presence. She understood something that many leaders learn too late. Access without boundaries is energy bankruptcy. It might feel great in the moment, and you might be getting the kudos and, oh, wow, you show up and you work so hard and you're great and you're amazing. But you're running on bankruptcy and you're writing checks that your body can't cash. Arianna Huffington is another story about energy. She built a global media company while sleeping very little. If you know her story, she collapsed from exhaustion, hit her head, and broke her cheekbone. She later said, "We think we can burn the candle at both ends. We can't. The payment always comes due." That collapse shifted her entire philosophy towards sleep and energy management. She built a new company focused entirely on well-being and recovery. So the lesson is, if you don't protect energy, energy will force protection. Crazy true story. When I was in Wichita, Kansas, I worked, my office manager colleague, her name was Kathy, and her husband, Ivan, served at the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. Really cool couple. And when he came back from World War II, he was a truck driver, long-distance truck driver back and forth across the U.S., mostly the Plains states, like Kansas. And he told me once that back in the day, the way truck drivers would keep themselves awake, and the drivetrain, or the way that trucks worked at that time, and excuse my lack of mechanical knowledge here, is that once you set your steering wheel, you didn't have a lot of drift. So these guys would be driving long distance at night, and in order to keep from falling asleep, they would light a cigarette and they'd put it in their hands, take a puff or two, and then they would rest their hand on the steering wheel with the cigarette lit. And when the cigarette burned down to the butt and started burning their fingers, that would wake them up. That would allow them to get a 4 or 5 minute cat nap on the road. A whole lot of truck drivers died with lit cigarettes. If you don't protect your energy, energy will force protection. So Ivan, the truck driver, he would talk about this with a little bit of reverence and kind of nostalgia, but a lot of, I can't believe I did that and I'm not dead. Another example of energy conservation, energy management is Steve Jobs. He famously wore that same outfit daily. He had like 60 versions of the same outfit, and it was not about fashion. It was about decision energy. You've heard me talk about this before with other famous people who limit their wardrobes, limit their choices. Steve Jobs understood that every decision costs energy, and energy should be reserved for what matters most. He said once, deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. Energy wealth is not about adding, it's about subtracting intelligently. What do you need to subtract from your routine, from your energy output to balance the score? Another story about Wichita, Kansas, coincidentally. I worked at a crisis hotline, mental health crisis hotline. All through the night, we would answer the phones. You never know what kind of a situation somebody's going to be calling in about. And the manager of the crisis line, his name was John. He said, "I'm going to do a little experiment, Susan. I'm really curious about this. I noticed that when the wind is higher, it seems like we get a lot more calls. In Wichita, Kansas, there's a whole lot of wind." So he set up a formal study with support from the university. And get this. On days where the wind was 15 miles per hour or higher, days in 24-hour periods where the wind was 15 miles per hour or higher, our crisis line received 9 times more calls of mental health crisis on days where the wind was high. Weather and environmental impact on energy is real. Have you ever noticed that on windy days you feel drained? I got a pop-up on my feed today at 7:30 a.m. that we had a snow squall warning. If wind can knock over trees, what is it doing to our equilibrium? Even when you're inside a home, that wind has energy impact. And research into environmental psychology suggests that high wind exposure can increase cortisol levels, irritability, fatigue, and it can provide difficulty concentrating. Wind creates constant low-level sensory stimulation, and your nervous system interprets that as environmental instability. People feel more agitated on windy days. Sleep quality can drop, and focus becomes harder. It's subtle, but it's real. And I point that out not because I think you're going to be able to change the colors of the wind, but because it's a form of data to recognize, regulate, and calibrate your body and your energy relative to the environment around you. If you feel inexplicably tired or edgy on a windy day, you're not imagining it. Your nervous system is working harder to maintain regulation. Just like you grip your hands on a steering wheel more tightly when the car is being blown by the wind, your nervous system does the same. Energy awareness includes environmental awareness. Speaking of environmental awareness, I want you to do a little experiment right now. Wherever you are, take notice of your physical self and notice for a moment which side of your body, left side or right side, you are favoring in this moment. I asked a friend this the other day, and she said, "What do you mean? Which cheek am I pressing harder?" Yes. Where are you emphasizing energy right now? And did you know that the left side of your body is the side of intake, of receipt, of open? And the right side of your body is the side of outtake, output, discharge, release. Some people, when they get super activated, they'll feel a tingling in one hand or the other. If you feel that tingling in your left hand when something very emotional happens, that can correspond to information that you're taking in that has an overwhelming and activating impact. If you get that tingling feeling in your right hand or your right side, that can be about your body's need to discharge a certain type or amount of energy. To my friends who speak Zulu, there is a concept, Gisatatoba. Gisatatoba. It's spelled Ngisatotoba. Gisatatoba. It's a Zulu word that loosely translates to, I am still learning. I am still becoming. I am still finding my strength. The literal translation of this word is, I am still suffering on. I really love this word because it implies that we can take in the travails and the troubles and the struggles of the world and still go on. But we've got to do it with intention, and we've got to pay the piper. Got to pay it back. So this word, Gisatatoba, is often associated with themes in the movie or the book, The Power of One. If you haven't read it, it's worth your time. It focuses on where resilience and growth and identity unfold over time. Gisatatoba carries an energy message that growth requires energy, becoming requires recovery, and strength requires renewal. A grand output requires a grand reset. You are not meant to operate at peak output at all times. You're meant to cycle. Energy wealth includes honoring cycles. Effort, recovery, growth, integration. Rinse and repeat. Gisatatoba reminds us you are still becoming, and that requires fuel. Now, the energy exchange. A little shout out to my dad, an ion exchange in chemistry. But this one is about human level energy exchange. Every interaction is an energy exchange. We know that matter is neither created nor destroyed. It's a zero-sum game. Every interaction is an energy exchange. So some interactions that you have will clarify, will expand, will ground you, will inspire you. Other interactions will confuse you, drain, tighten, exhaust. Healthy systems are not perfectly equal in every moment. They are reciprocal over time. And if you are always initiating, always repairing, always over-functioning, always carrying emotional labor for yourself and those around you, if you're always managing others' reactions, that, my friend, is not generosity. That is unsustainable extraction. You're pulling silver from a mine that will run out. You can care deeply and still choose where to invest. Energy wealth requires discernment, not detachment. You know this person I'm about to describe. This person is all about the one-way conversation. You ever been in a conversation with someone and realized partway through that they are not interested in you at all? One of my first business trips ever, I was so excited. I felt like such a grown-up getting on a plane and flying out to San Diego. And we went to a modern art museum. And that was where the reception was. And I had studied my subject and I was ready to, exchange business cards with other leaders that were present. I had no idea what I was doing, but I really studied hard and I prepared myself with the cognitive knowledge. What I didn't prepare myself for was the emotional element. So we get into this reception where there's all these high top tables and servers moving around with champagne and little canapes on a tray. And I get into this conversation with a woman who was in a similar position to me, except she was at UCSD, University of California at San Diego. And she was looking for someone to join in some research that she was doing. And I got really excited because it was similar to a path of research that I had been pursuing, and there were potential, human benefits as well as financial benefits. So there would likely be some commercial interest in what she was studying. And she would speak for a few minutes, and I then would return either a question or interest in what she was talking about. And then she would take the time to ask me questions about my research and my interests. And it felt like an equal exchange. And I felt energized when that conversation ended. We exchanged business cards. And to this day, we still stay connected through LinkedIn. It was a positive interaction. It was an equal or semi-equal exchange. Next conversation, next high top table, I met someone who was absolutely charismatic and charming, funny, interesting, rather than the previous conversation where there was just kind of a calm connection and a real shared passion for the topic, but nothing too fireworky when it came to laughter or engagement. This person, for the first 4 or 5 minutes, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I think this person is amazing. I want to be a friend to this person. I hope I get to know her. And then a few minutes later, I realized she hasn't asked me a single question yet. Not interested in my ideas, my experience, my perspective. And I realized the subject she was talking about, I had just won a national award for. It doesn't matter what the subject was, but I was actually, like, for one of the first times in my life, an actual recognized, quote, expert on something. And she had no idea anything about me. She wasn't interested in my perspective. She was interested in hearing herself speak. And she was really good at speaking. But by the time I noticed it, I realized that the one question she did ask was just a setup to keep talking. And anytime I tried to participate in an exchange conversation, she would interrupt me before I even finished, had no idea what I was about to say, redirected everything back to herself, didn't track what I said. She was waiting, not listening, anytime I was talking. I left that interaction feeling oddly tired, not because I worked hard, but because I wasn't seen. Most of us have had that experience where you sit across from someone who is talking at you, not with you. And that is not a conversation. That's a monologue with an audience. And here's what I want you to leave me today taking on your way. You are not obligated to remain in conversations that are not an exchange. That realization is an energy moment, because conversations are energy exchanges, and good ones leave both people clearer, sharper, more grounded, more alive. One-way conversations leave one person full and the other depleted. How much of your energy exchange out there is out of whack, where you give, they get, and you're depleted? Stephen Covey said once something like this: most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. They are simply waiting their turn. The energy exchange is uneven. They're withdrawing energy without depositing any back into you. And that doesn't make them bad people. It makes them unregulated, distracted, or self-focused in that moment. Doesn't mean they're always going to be that way. But if it becomes a pattern, it becomes an energy drain. And it's your job to notice the signs. If you feel more tired after the conversation than before it started, if you did most of the listening, if you learned nothing about them except what they wanted to say, and they learned nothing about you, you felt like a sounding board, not a participant, you're draining your energy wealth. And you alone are responsible for stewarding those precious resources and recognizing when you're in a one-way exchange. So here's some options when this happens next. Gently redirect. Hey, I'd love to share my perspective too. That's a test and an invitation. You can set a boundary. Hey, I have about 5 minutes. Hey, I've got to go in a few moments. Before I leave, there's one more thing I want to ask you. Right? So you're setting up that cue that the conversation's about to be over. Or ask a reflective question. What do you think you're hoping to take from this conversation? You can limit your exposure time because not every interaction will be perfectly balanced. But if you know that there's a steady imbalance every time and you leave feeling unseen, unheard, and drained, take that data, notice where your presence is valued and where it is simply used, and be on your way. A good conversation feels like tennis, back and forth, movement, momentum. A draining conversation feels like you're the wall and the other person is hitting balls at you. You don't have to be the wall. Energy wealth means investing in conversations where curiosity goes both ways. Save your energy for reciprocal investment. Simple, direct, and a little confrontational. Because most of us don't run out of time. We run out of energy. And we spend it like it's renewable, when in truth, it's one of the most finite resources we have. Energy shows up as attention, as patience, as emotional labor, as the willingness to try again, to explain again, to care again, to repair again. And if you're honest with yourself, here's the big part for today. You already know where your energy leaks. The conversations that go nowhere, the relationships where you're the one doing the work, the dynamics where you give thought, effort, heart, and get indifference in return. The uncomfortable truth: where energy flows one way for too long, resentment grows. Not because you're selfish, because you're human. Reciprocity isn't transactional, it's relational oxygen. When someone invests back, even imperfectly in you, something shifts. You feel seen and valued, met. And suddenly effort doesn't feel like depletion, it feels like momentum. Saving your energy isn't about cutting people off. It's about paying attention to patterns and investing accordingly. Your energy is a vote, and every day you're casting it somewhere. So the real question isn't who needs you, it's who meets you. Invest where there's investment. Show up where showing up is mutual. And care where care comes back around. Because the quality of your life isn't shaped just by what you do with your time. It's shaped by what you do with your energy. And that's where people come alive. Most of us don't run out of time, we run out of energy. I really love that. It's a powerful realization if you look in the mirror. Now, energy vampires, say it out loud. Energy vampires. It's not people who are struggling. These are people who chronically extract without responsibility, problems without ownership, recycled complaints, manufactured urgency, boundary resistance, emotional offloading or dumping without repair. And after those interactions, you feel tired, foggy, irritable, heavy, cheated. use your techniques to limit that outpouring of energy. And when somebody is a chronic complainer, here's a little tip to use. So what's your next step to make a change? It's kind of a stick in the spokes to say, you want to keep going in this direction? Because that's what I hear you complaining about every time. Or what's your next step to make a change? Stop rescuing. Avoid relitigating old issues and protect your peak energy hours. You're allowed to stop subsidizing someone else's lack of ownership. So I went to town and I found some songs about energy. Here's some songs to listen to about high energy and activation. Titanium with David Guetta and Sia. Stronger by Kanye. Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. Can't Hold Us by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. Energy by Drake. Here's some songs about grounded and centered energy. This might be my favorite one for today. Lovely Day, 1978, Bill Withers. Rise Up, Andra Day. And Unstoppable, Sia makes it twice into my list today. For calm and restorative energy, Weightless by Marconi Union. Holocene by Bon Iver. And Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. And if you want some edge, intensity energy, Lose Yourself, Eminem. You can't not move when that song comes on. Run the World, Girls, Beyonce. And Believer by Imagine Dragons. What's your song that changes your energy for the day? Because music, like the wind, moves us. Energy vocabulary for your How I Feel bank. When you have high energy, you might call it charged, lit up, clear, focused, grounded, strong, engaged, motivated, activated, steady, flowing, aligned, confident, curious, inspired. These are all active energy words. Because I'm going to ask you at the end of this, how are you feeling? How is your energy level? Here's some words for calm and restored energy. Settled, regulated, centered, rested, recovered, even, open, present, peaceful, replenished, palms up, ready to receive. Calm and restored energy. Now, words for low and depleted energy: drained, flat, foggy, sluggish, scattered, overextended, tired, heavy, disconnected, numb, burned out, overloaded. Ugh, I feel yucky just hearing those words. Now, two more lists. This list is about agitated or dysregulated energy. I'm wired, I'm jittery, I'm restless, I'm tense, I'm irritable, on edge, overstimulated, anxious, reactive, pressured. If I want to be Gen A, pressed. Lastly, mixed energy states. It is possible to have two simultaneous energy states. I wonder if you have that right now. Productively tired, calm but alert, wired and tired, focused but depleted, energized but scattered, steady with spikes. Broaden your vocabulary for your energy so that you can get more nuanced in paying attention to where you are. For people with chronic illness, energy is a whole different story. I remember when I was first diagnosed with hypothyroidism, and I started learning about the hypothalamus and the whole body's regulation system, and how mine was woefully out of whack which is why I was tired and irritable and my hair was all the things. I started tuning into my body, and I realized that I felt chronically at a disadvantage to everybody else around me. Like, they don't know I'm sick. The whole world was revolving around me in this moment. I was the only human being on the planet sick. So, of course, everything was about me. And I remember thinking, with this chronic illness, I'm less than, because my 100% of my energy was going to be 70 or 80% of everyone else's around me. And I felt broken. I felt less than. I felt not enough. And then I came to my senses to remember that every other person out there is fighting some form of physical imbalance, maybe even chronic illness. And it's okay to have a limited amount of energy. It becomes more important than ever how we manage it, how we fuel it. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions. First question is the level of energy. Answer this question. Right now, my energy feels high, medium, low. Where are you? Next question. Right now, my energy feels stable, spiky, flat. And lastly, right now, my energy feels expanding, contracting, or stable. And what would improve your energy by 10%? I'm going back to Penn State right now, and I'll tell you my hype song that my roommates and I, anytime we heard Push It by Salt and Pepper, yes, I'm that old. Anytime we heard Push It, we had to stop what we were doing, and it was a dance break in that moment. If we were dragging, if the day felt flat, if we needed a reset, one of us would say, put it on. We'd bring that music on our boombox or on our Walkman. And the moment that beat started, everything shifted. Posture changed, energy lifted, mood snapped into place. We'd go from tired to electric in 3 seconds flat. We played it like it was our entrance song on stage, not because anyone asked, not because we needed or wanted attention, but because we understood even then something important. Energy is contagious. And sometimes you generate it first and then step out into the world. We weren't going to wait to feel energized. We were creating the state we craved and then showing up inside it. That's my invitation to you. Create the energy you crave. You'll stand taller, you'll move differently, you'll feel sharper, you'll feel more like yourself. Your personal walk-in music. What's your hype song? Go put it on. And while you're doing that, do an audit of your calendar for next week. Look at every block on your calendar and ask yourself, is this an energizer or a depleter? And start doing something about those depleters. Take command of your energy, physical, emotional, spiritual. It's your body. Claim it. I want to thank you for joining me. This hour went by so quickly. Another episode of Human Being with Dr. Susan. And remember that your struggles are not proof that you're failing. They are proof that you have energy in the game. I'm Dr. Susan, and I can't wait to see you next week and every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern on Human Being with Dr. Susan.